right? So I was just over at my friend's house, right, which is a guy. And this man really started bitching and moaning about how it's a woman's world, right? And so as he complained and he complained, let me fix my necklace. He was all like, you know, women has had it made since they was born. Everything a woman wants, she could get. And this man is about 10 years older than me, right? So I'm in my 30s. And as I'm listening to him, I'm thinking to myself, I've never heard my grandfather, I've never heard my stepdaddy, I've never even heard the men in my neighborhood complain and say, this is a woman's world. So as he was ranting and raving, I'm listening to him. I'm like, dude, do you even know the laws that women had to fight for to get some goddamn rights? Obviously, no. So I took the time out to research laws that women, specifically wives, had to endure during certain times in society, specifically in America. Okay, so the first law we're gonna talk about was back in Georgia up until 1974. A married woman's earnings were legally considered the property of her husband. The law made it impossible for wives to control their own finances or have economic independence. Okay, listen to that. If I was married before 1974 in Georgia, everything I earned belonged to my husband. So if my husband ain't shit and he ain't taking care of the home, it don't matter that I work for it. It's going straight to him. There's no law like that now for men. Even if you was to get divorced from a woman, she doesn't have that much right to your money unless you did it like that, right? So the second law, in South Carolina, a wife cannot divorce her husband. South Carolina, a wife cannot divorce her husband for desertion or abandonment unless she could prove that he had left her for at least a year. This placed a higher burden of women to prove and show why their marriage should be dissolved. So just imagine, right, a man playing a mind game with a woman, leaving her for 2 months, coming back. This had to be a full year. Do you know how many people have relationships where they go back and forth in? And where one person just keep popping back up? Just imagine you as a child of a mother that's going through that. Come on, fellas, wake up. Third law in New Jersey. In the 19th century, women couldn't own property in their own right once married. All property belonged to their husband, leaving wives financially vulnerable and without control of their assets. So you telling me that it was once upon a time that basically if you wasn't married, you could own your own property. So you telling me before the 19th century that if I decide to stay a single woman, I can own my property. But if I get married, my husband now owns my property. I wonder how many marriages was happening back then. You know what I mean? Because the fact that if I had a choice like that, I'm really guessing that a lot of women probably decided not to get married. Another one in Tennessee, law number 4. Women were unable to serve as legal guardians of their own children in the event of a husband's death unless he named in his husband's will. Male relatives were prioritized as guardians over the mother. Can you imagine? I want the men to listen to this. Could you imagine as a young boy, right? Your daddy died, right? You got some shitty uncles, right? Or they some deep, they are okay, right? Meaning they pay the bills and that's it. And you telling me that these uncles could come through and take them kids and be like, these are mine, and leave your mama with her kids? Could you imagine another man outside your father coming in saying, I'm taking these kids away from your mama when ain't nothing wrong with your mama? Because the law stated that because her husband died and he didn't say in the will that the kids are going to stay with her, that now his brothers could take them? Law number 5, in Virginia. In the 19th and early 20th century, wives could be forced into cohabitation and required by law to live with their husbands, even in cases where the husband was abusive. Refusal, refusal of this could result in legal consequences. So back then, if a woman was getting abused by their husband, they couldn't even leave the house. They had to live with him. They had to suffer the beating. Now, the laws isn't like that. If somebody getting abused by their spouse, they could leave. They could go stay in a shelter. But just imagine you being a child with your mama and your daddy, your mama husband, is physically abusing her, mentally abusing her, emotionally abusing her. And as much as she want to leave and go stay at her parents' house where she know is safe, as much as she want to take you somewhere that's safety, she can't. Because if she do, she might go to jail. And now you as a kid is stuck with your abusive daddy. Number 6, in Alabama, a wife could not take out a loan, open a bank account, or sign a contract without her husband's consent. This severely restricted her ability to participate in financial or business activities. So if she got an idea, if she's an ambitious woman, right? Just imagine this being your mama. Just imagine this being your sister. You watched her grow up. You know what your sister is capable of. Just imagine this being your mama. You seen her come up with ideas. She want to make some money. And then she can't even go get the loan to build her money up because she got to ask her husband, who is in turn jealous of her ambition, who is in turn wondering why he didn't come up with the idea, right? That's pretty crazy. Number 7, in Massachusetts, women could not file for divorce unless they could prove their husband was cheating in the most public and humiliating ways. This created an unfair advantage for men as the burden of truth was significantly higher for women. So that means if back then wasn't no cell phones around, right? So if your mama, if your sister, if your grandma, because everybody love their grandma, right? Your mama, your sister, your grandma, your daughter, right? She couldn't even file for divorce, even though she know her husband cheating. She seen her husband kiss another woman in the car. She seen her husband smack a little booty out and about, right? But unless it's so vile, so public, that's the only way she could get that divorce based on adultery. There's people that's good at cheating. There's people that can cheat on you dead in your face, but because it's not so big and outrageous, other people don't even believe that that person is doing that. In Idaho, until 1976, do you know how close 1976 is to 2024? I've dated dudes who was born in 1976. Until 1976 in Idaho, the law stated that men were head of household. That's when you do your taxes and you either write single or you write head of household. Meaning wives had to defer to their husbands in all family and financial decisions. This limited a woman's autonomy within her marriage. Now I'm gonna say this. I met some really smart men and I met some really dumbass men. If I had to go to some of the men I dated as the head of household to get permission to do certain things in life, I wouldn't even be halfway as successful as I am today. Okay, so we're gonna leave it at that. Law number 8 in North Carolina. Historically, a wife's inheritance rights were less favorable compared to her husband. If a husband died without a will, his male relatives were often given priority over the widow for inheritance. Do you know how many men I meet who can't stand their family? Or they like their family, but they don't like sharing stuff with their family, right? But then you got the men who don't even think they could die. Meaning they do not prep for death. I knew an older man who really said, me buying life insurance is like me saying I'm going to die. You are going to die. Why would you not want to have life insurance so people do not have to go on GoFundMe and beg for you to bury you? So when I mentioned that, it goes along with this law as you have some men out there that don't even create a will based on they don't want to talk about death. Law number 10 in California, right? Such a liberal state. Until the 1970s, women were required to take their husband's last name upon marriage. Refusing to do so could result in legal complications, particularly when it came to property rights and legal identifications. That law is kind of tricky right there, right? Because I know a few women who did not take their husband's last name. And the reason B is because honestly, their name held a little bit more weight than their husbands did, right? However, what they did do was either have another ID, identification with their husband's last name. Don't ask me how they did it, but they did it that way. Okay, so there is a little workaround that back in the day, but it's past 1970s, and now you can keep your last name. It's even popular now that men take on their wives' last name. I myself, I don't have a big brother from my father's side. I have a step big brother. I don't have one from my father's side. Meaning I'm the only one bearing my last name. I always say to people, if you want me to give up my last name, you got to come 5 times harder than my last name. So I totally could respect a woman saying, hey, your name ain't bringing in them dollars. Your name ain't bringing in them powers. However, I still love you. And I still want to be with you. And I still want to marry you. I'm just not taking on that name. So this video, I made it for my friend. I hope he is going to look and I'm going to send it to him. But for other men, too, who have that mindset of women got all the power, women got all control. There's women who think the same thing of men. My thing I'm trying to tell you, when I just list these laws, get out of yourself. Think about your mama. Think about your grandma. Think about your sister. Think about if you have a daughter. Think about a woman that you actually admire and say to yourself, wow. Just imagine if she was around when those laws was in place. How did she get to where she at now? How did she get the success that you are admiring? Okay? I'm really hoping that young men really get off this bandwagon of feeling like this is a woman's world, because we as women have so many more hurdles to keep going. One big hurdle is you either make too much money as a woman, where as you climb up, there's lesser men at the top as you get up to that top, right? So we need more men to get to the top. So as we women keep going to the top, your ass is up there for us, right? When I date men who assume I make more money than them, I would say that my treatment is slightly different, as in they would say little comments like, well, I don't have the luxury that you have. What are you talking about? Why are you counting my shit? You a grown ass man. Stop counting my goddamn pockets. And when I go out with men who do make more money than me, I don't have to say it. They can sense it. They can feel it. Now, I'm not walking around with my pockets turned inside out begging. But what I am doing is carrying myself a certain type of way. But the men who make more than me, who got their shit together, who got their mind right, they're not focused on none of that shit. You understand what I'm saying? They're not focused on that. So with my male friend, as he was talking and I was honestly looking at him, reading him, thinking to myself, why does he have this mindset? I start to notice that he's not as successful as he probably could and should be. And that's nobody's fault. That's not a woman's fault. That's his fault. That's nobody else's fault. Okay? Your success is based off of you. Yes, there are times in life where you have things in life where you can't be successful, but for you as a man to keep running around town saying, this is a woman's world, this is a woman's world. Listen to that James Brown song, It's a Man's World. You need to listen to that and get your manhood back. Because the way that you're viewing life, your lenses viewing life is shattered. Me as a woman, I don't walk around saying, oh, this is a man's world. However, I don't think it's a woman's world. Do I think girls run the world? No. Okay. There's so many other countries, it's not happening like that. Even in the United States, you go down south, you go to middle America, it's a lot of stuff going on with women, you know? So, young men, if you're watching this, even older men, because like I said, that man was 10 years older than me. So he's in his 40s somewhere, 10 plus years older than me. And he still had that mindset. He still had the mindset of a woman could do it, I can't do it. I mean, it's now okay for a man to dress up in women clothing in public. What are you talking about? You can do everything we do except probably have that baby. And if you decide you want to go that route, hey, I don't know what more to say to you, but you as a young man need to get out that mindset of this is a woman's world and understand the power you have. Me being a young woman, like I said, I do feel like this is a man's world, but it ain't gonna stop me from getting to the top. Okay, I know that they talk about the glass ceiling. I ain't even up there yet to even see the glass ceiling, so I'm not worried about that just yet. You as a young man, get your shit together so you can stop feeling like it's a woman's world. Stop feeling like that. The reason why you feel like that, because you're not being the man that you're supposed to be. The moment you start being a better man for yourself, trust me, you're not gonna feel like, oh, this is a woman's world. You know, I even worked in construction before, right? And when they would hire people, I worked in construction at the time where you had to go to the site and get hired. There was times I didn't get hired at sites. Did I feel like it was because I was a woman? Sometimes I did. But when I felt like that, you know what I would do? I would use my feminine charm, right? I'll put on a little bit of makeup, wear my cargo pants a little extra tighter, and go to that job site. And yeah, sometimes I will get hired based off my looks. And that's all right, because I'm using my femininity. You need to use your masculinity for whatever you need to use it for. So the more you keep assuming it's a woman's world, that's what it will be. And it doesn't mean, oh, it's a man's world, meaning you run around town beating up people and taking advantage of people. No. It just means that, you know, you still got some power in it. So after reading these 10 laws, you need to sit back and think to yourself, okay, why am I bitching so much about it being a goddamn woman's world when she just broke down all these laws from the past that continue to show that these women has been through hell and back. Your mama, your sister, your grandmother, those people have been through hell and back. Your daughter that you probably gonna have or you already gonna have, their bloodline of womanness, right? Of their feminines has been through hell and back. Some of y'all who were probably grew up in single family homes with just a mama, I can see why you may assume it's a woman's world because maybe you grew up with your mother being a leader in a household. And she had to be because it wasn't no man there, fool. And then some of y'all grew up where you had a mother and father there, but your mama was still running shit. Hey, that's the type of woman your daddy decided to be with. It's a reason for that. You know what I mean? You have some people that are sociopaths that's good at covering themselves, but most likely that woman didn't cover herself for 2 years being a goody two shoe, and then she snap and start bossing up and stuff like that where your daddy's just like, oh God, I'm stuck, I gotta stay here. No. Your father chose that woman because she was strong, because she was gonna be a head bitch in charge and make sure the stuff got handled at home, made sure that you go to school. Maybe he wasn't. So he was smart enough to say, let me find a woman that would do that. Whatever your reason to be that you keep blaming women for why you ain't where you supposed to be at in life, you're going to keep having them problems. Like I tell my friend, you need to really tap into your manhood because the more you complain about that shit, it's a turnoff. You're gonna meet, you're rarely gonna meet a woman that's gonna feel that bad for you saying it's a woman's world. After a while, she gonna get frustrated. Like, why the fuck he keep complaining to me about this when I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing for him not to see that? But some of us just like to complain. Some of us just want to have a reason to why we ain't shit. And that's fine too. But you can't blame women to why you ain't shit. All right, have a good night.